So, to continue the discussion of Miss Rachel, I will be the one to discuss catching up and climate change. So, to further um, start our discussion, I will be given to you a brief description of what is climate change. So, climate change refers to long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns on Earth. It is primarily caused by human activities, such as the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial processes, which release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So these gases, including carbon dioxide and methane, trap heat from the sun and cause the earth temperature to rise, leading to various impacts. So the impacts of climate change are wide-ranging and include rising global temperature, melting ice caps and glaciers, sea levels rise, more frequent and intense extreme weather events.
These massive environmental problems are difficult to resolve because governments believe that for their countries to become fully developed, they must be industrialized, urbanized, and inhabited by a robust middle class with access to the best of modern amenities. A developed society, accordingly, must also have provisions for the poor, jobs in industrial sector, public transport system, and cheap food. So, the statement explains that resolving massive environmental problems is challenging because governments prioritize industrialization, urbanization, and the development of a middle class with access to modern amenities. So, to achieve this, governments believe that a developed society must also provide for the poor through industrial jobs, public transportation, and affordable food. The availability of food depends on free trade with other food producers and the use of modern agricultural practices, including the use of toxic technologies and genetically modified crops. So, to provide a specific example, let's consider the issue of pollution caused by industrialization. Governments often prioritize industrialization as a means to boost economic growth and provide employment opportunities. However, industrial activities often lead to pollution of air, water, and soil. This pollution can have severe consequences for the environment and human health. So, to resolve this environmental problem, governments would need to strike a balance between industrial development and environmental protection. They would need to invest in cleaner technologies and enforce stricter regulations on industries to reduce pollution. These ecological consequences, however, are far from the mind of countries like China, India, and Indonesia, which are now in the midst of frenzied effort to achieve and sustain economic growth to catch up with the West. In the desire to develop and improve the standard of living of their citizens, these countries will opt for the goals of economic growth and cheap energy. So, this passage is discussing the actions and priorities of countries like China, India, and Indonesia in relation to economic growth and environment. So, kanisad kay nag-suggest that ang country are primarily focused on achieving and sustaining economic growth in order to catch up with Western countries in their pursuit of development and improving the standard of living for their citizens. These countries also prioritize economic growth and cheap energy. However, this approach can lead to negative ecological consequences such as energy overconsumption, waste inefficiency, and environmental pollution. These countries are likely to use their natural resources such as coal, oil, forest, agricultural products, and minerals to generate wealth that can be invested in industrialization. So, in the last part of catching up, there will be a question. How is environmental sustainability ensured while simultaneously addressing the development needs of poor countries? So, ensuring environmental sustainability while addressing the development needs of poor countries is a complex challenge that requires a balanced approach. So, here are some strategies that can help to achieve this. First is Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Second is technology transfer and capacity building. Third is financial support and investment. Fourth is collaboration and knowledge sharing. Fifth is inclusive decision making. Sixth is conservation and preservation. And lastly, education and awareness. So, by adopting these strategies, it is possible to ensure environmental sustainability while addressing the development needs of poor countries. However, it requires a collaborative and holistic approach involving governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector. So, in climate change, governments have their own environmental problems to deal with, but these days, ecological concerns became worldwide due to global warming, which transcends national boundaries. So, global warming is the result of billions of tons of carbon dioxide from coal burning power plants and transportation, various air pollutants, and other gases accumulating in the atmosphere. So, this passage discusses the environmental problems faced by governments, which are exacerbated by global warming. Global warming is caused by the accumulation of carbon dioxide and other gases in the atmosphere, primarily from coal burning power plants and transportation. So, these pollutants trap the sun's radiation, leading to the warming of the Earth's surface. So, the passage also mentions the greenhouse effect, which refers to the trapping of heat by these gases. So, bisan pa man sa mga effort by climate change deniers, there is a consensus that global temperatures have been rising at an accelerated rate in the last 50 years, contrary to claims that the world had cooled off in 1998. So, usa sa mga example ani kay in the recent years, governments around the world have been grappling with the increasingly severe environmental problems caused by global warming. So, this phenomenon, which is primarily driven by the release of carbon dioxide and other harmful gases into the atmosphere, has been largely attributed to the activities of coal burning power plants and transportation systems. So these pollutants act as a barrier, preventing the sun's radiation from escaping back into space and resulting in the gradual warming of the Earth's surface. So this process is commonly referred to as the greenhouse effect, as it mimics the way of a greenhouse traps heat. So despite the persistent claims of climate change deniers, there is a widespread consensus among scientists that global temperatures have been steadily rising over the past 50 years, contradicting the notion that the world experienced a cooling period in 1998. So, sa diri nga statement, i-explain nga ang greenhouse effect kay naka-cause by global warming. So, it is impacting different regions of the world. The greenhouse effect refers to the trapping of heat in the Earth's atmosphere due to the increased concentration of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So, sa mga certain places, the greenhouse effect leads to recurring heat waves and long droughts. So, it means nga kato nga mga areas naka-experience og prolonged periods of high temperatures and lack of rainfall, which can have severe consequences for agriculture, water supply, and overall ecosystem health. So, on the other hand also, in some regions, the greenhouse effect results in heavier rainfall and more intense storms, nga mao'y nag-lead sa devastating hurricanes, typhoons, and flash floods. So, diri sad kay gimension ang mga example such as California nga naka-experience o pinaka-worst nga water shortage due to global warming, followed by flash floods when rain finally arrived. So same sad sa India and Southeast Asia have seen altered monsoon patterns causing intermittent flooding that affects food production, infrastructure, and overall stability. So sa diri nga statement gipasabot nga kanang the melting of glaciers, rising sea levels, and extreme weather patterns are all consequences of human-made climate change. So, diri nadaan daghan kay mga changes, mga impact sa atong environment, sa atong economy, and labaw sa atong human health. So, usa sa mga example ani kay ang coastal flooding and ang pag-distract sa coral reefs. So, naka-affect sad ni siya sa production capacities, labi na sa mga farms and fisheries. So, moreover, flooding has created more breeding grounds for disease carriers like mosquitoes and cholera bacteria. So, ang effect ani sa climate change are global and pose a significant risk to humankind. So, importante jud kaayo to take immediate action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate the impacts of climate change.
So, that would be all for my topic. Thank you for listening.